me, if I may, to cast your mind back to the World Cup in Russia. England were getting set plays, free kicks, corners. And throughout the tournament, we built up quite a reputation of being a really, really difficult team to deal with. You can probably picture it in your mind. We're about to get a corner, and the players are lined up, single file, usually headed by Harry Maguire, and then they would all break off and splinter into different groups. I think the premise behind the tactic was that the opposition defence didn't know whether the ball was coming near post or far post. They hadn't taken up orthodox positions. That's the point. They all ran in late and took up their positions. We were a massive threat. We scored some goals. We hit the woodwork numerous times. And we were just generally considered to be the biggest threat from set plays in that particular tournament. Now, the reason that the tactics had sort of metamorphosised from one thing to another was largely down to a coach called Paul Nevin. And that's the same Paul Nevin who was going to go on to coach at West Ham. Now, David Moyes has got to take an enormous amount of credit, because apparently David Moyes is a pretty good set-piece coach himself. But what Moyes always does is he always surrounds himself with good people. It's the art of delegation. It's extremely important to do that, and it goes back to what I was saying the other day, which is really important, that David Sullivan now takes a step back and doesn't get involved in transfers at all, because he's now delegated that task to somebody else. He's brought in an expert. He's brought in somebody better than himself. And as good as David Moyes was, he's single-minded, yet he had humility enough to know, actually, there's somebody out there who's actually better at this set-piece malarkey than I am. So, fair play for Moyes for getting Paul Nevin in. And then you look at our set play since the guy has come in, and it almost completely mirrors what I've just described with England. Not necessarily we're always in a straight line, but there's innovation, and there's no coincidence that we finished last season as the best team in the league for set plays. And it ain't all because we've got tall players. There are other teams with tall players. It's not about that. It is, you see that? It's like a pterodactyl, wasn't it? That flying across then. It was just really good as a West Ham fan to go into a game thinking, oh, okay, well, we've got a real chance here if we can get a set play. And it was a massive threat to the opposition. The last thing you want to do against West Ham is concede a corner. And again, it's largely down to Nevin. Now, I don't know the reasons why Nevin wasn't retained by England. Maybe he just came to West Ham and they used somebody else. But there was quite an interesting dynamic, because Mikel Arteta, when he got the Arsenal job, took a guy called Steve Round with him. Now, Steve Round is David Moyes' sort of first choice lieutenant, if you want. Ideally, if Moyes could have had one choice of a person to bring with him as his assistant manager, it would have been Steve Round. So testament to David Moyes that he didn't get his mate. He went and worked with Arteta at Arsenal. Yet it carries on. He brings in other guys. He brings in Stuart Pearce. He brings in Kevin Nolan, Alan Irvine. And again, Alan Irvine's just gone now. So, but again, Moyes has shown that he has the ability to bring somebody else in. And whilst I think a lot of credit, and rightly so, has gone to Irvine for the way that he held the team together when David Moyes, remember, got COVID. And I think Irvine actually presided over the 3-0 and 4-0 wins against Wolves and Leicester, wasn't it? He got a lot of credit for that, so it was well done, good coach. Stuart Pearce gets an awful lot of credit. We talk about him quite a lot, and rightly so, as somebody to galvanise and organise and just to bring drive and determination to the coaching setup, I think is magnificent. And you see these guys are all bringing in different things, and then Kevin Nolan comes in for a lot of praise. And again, the dynamic is good. Both Nolan and Pearce have both obviously played for West Ham, which I think helps tremendously. And as I understand it, Kevin Nolan also helps out with the set pieces, by the way, but works an awful lot, particularly with players finishing. And as you'd expect, I thought when Nolan was at West Ham, he was the most natural finisher at the club, wasn't he? So, testament to David Moyes for building this backroom team. But amongst all of that, I feel Nevin probably goes a little bit unnoticed. Actually, I must say, probably the goalkeeping coach gets massively unnoticed to the point I don't actually know who it is, which is terrible, and I apologise. I apologise for that, I really do. But I think Nevin disappears under the radar. Anyway, I've always been aware of what he's done, and I've mentioned him a few times in these videos, but he entered my consciousness again very recently. It was after the Hungary game. Because Gareth Southgate came out and said he'd like to thank West Ham. He'd like to thank West Ham for releasing Paul Nevin. Now, initially, I thought, oh, hold on a second, this is not good. Has he got his full-time job back? No. And I'm glad, because let's be fair, the England set-piece specialist is not a full-time job. So he thanked West Ham for us releasing him, and I think it was the smart thing for West Ham to do, because West Ham do not need to lose this guy. I've already said that if West Ham lose a coach, it's fine. David Moyes will bring someone else in, but this guy's working. It's working well, and you have to assume, bearing in mind that at that World Cup England were the best, and then he comes to West Ham. I say England were the best at set pieces. Then he comes to West Ham, and statistically, it's not just hearsay. Statistically, last season West Ham were the best team at set pieces. So he comes to West Ham, and West Ham are the best. So wherever he is, his last two jobs, whoever he's been with, they've been the best. You have to assume he's top of the tree. So whilst Moyes can replace these guys in and out, I do not want to lose this guy. I do think it would not be to West Ham's advantage at all. So when Gareth Southgate wanted to thank West Ham for releasing Paul Nevin, I worried a bit, but it was only on a match by match basis, I believe. I hope that there's some middle ground there where he can retain his West Ham job and then disappear off to England's duty, because I don't know if you noticed, West Ham had quite a lot of players out on international duty during this particular international break. So possibly he's not really needed on the training ground. And let's be, if big players, think about our set play routines. Who's in there? Who's amongst it? Basically, going in for the set plays. Well, okay, there's some who are not on international duty, which I'd say Ogbonna and Dawson. Fine, he can be working with them, but you can't just work with Ogbonna and Dawson. Actually, take Souček out of the equation, which you're going to have to do. You take Zuma out of the equation, who's obviously going to be a massive part of things. Take Antonio out of the equation. Then you're sort of starting to dilute somewhat your set plays. If you want to take Declan Rice out, which you've got to do, because he's also in the box for such things, you've got to imagine Crowell will be involved in some way, shape or form. Then all of a sudden, can you effectively, on the training ground, work on your set plays during international break? I don't think you can. I think international break, as far as the players that remain at West Ham, is probably about keeping them fit, working on certain drills. But you can't work out the tactics for the next match, particularly, because you can't practice because half the players aren't there. So I don't think we miss him during that time. So let him go away with England. I just hope we don't miss him. I hope we don't lose him. And I hope that they can continue to strike this sort of balance where he does go away on England duty, do his work, and then come back and do his fantastic work at West Ham. Because, as I say, I do think he's certainly not undervalued by the players. He's certainly not undervalued by the other staff. And I just think in a way me more than anyone, talk about Moyes so much, I think it's very easy to not concentrate on the backroom team and perhaps don't speak about them enough. But they are vitally important. They are an integral part of what's going on at West Ham. And I certainly think in Paul Nevin, we've got one of the very, very best. I just thought it was a really, really interesting dynamic, really, and just an interest. I keep saying dynamic recently, don't I? A really interesting dynamic, and I thought I just thought it was very interesting. Oh, and the other thing I'd like to say is yesterday I got a few requests to try and do a video completely in the voice of Sean Connery. So I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it some consideration. I didn't mean to. I just meant to say Vlasic, Nikola Vlasic, and that's it. But people seem to think that there's a whole video there. So maybe some people wanted the West Ham news in the voice of Sean Connery. I will do it at some point. I know there are some people who sometimes pass comments, and I'll tell you, 99% of the comments on this channel are absolutely fantastic, and I will obviously always read them all. But I do, when I'm a little bit silly, I do get the odd comment which sometimes says, "Oh, could you just be straight, please? Can you just read the West Ham news?" And I'm not really here to read West Ham news, and there has to be an element on this channel and on Hammers Chat in general for an element of silliness, which is what we certainly enjoy. So I'll give you forewarning at the start of the video that it will be it will be a little bit light-hearted, but that's what we got to do. I've actually got actually, I'll deal with that in another video. I saw something very, very funny, West Ham related yesterday. I'm gonna put it in a video for you. It's really tickled me. Anyway, that's it. I didn't discuss Antonio. I didn't discuss Declan Rice to Liverpool. It's all happening. Actually, Liverpool's now changed to Man United. But this was really about the coach staff, really about Paul Nevin, and we take immense pride, I think, as West Ham fans, when one of our players gets called up to England. We were very proud last year, weren't we, when Declan Rice and Lingard were both called up for England. But I do think we should also take a massive amount of pride that one of our coaches is deemed at such a high standard that England let him go and then decided that actually they need him back. And it's a massive factor. It's a massive factor. You'll go a long way in football to try and bring elite level players in. And we've got some really, really good players, but actually it does seem that at West Ham at the moment, we've got an elite level specialist coach. So long may it remain. So we don't speak about him much, but he's not going to watch this because he's out doing international duty. But if for some reason he does watch this, thank you so much, Mr. Nevin. We very much appreciate you at West Ham. Right, I'll be back tomorrow talking about some other nonsense, possibly in a Sean Connery accent, possibly not. Who knows? Until tomorrow, I'll catch you later.